Welcome back to My BrainWise Coach Podcast. I am Cole Bastian, one of your co-hosts, and we're so happy you decided to join us for segment 2 of the series we're calling Do You Feel Stuck, possibly in the midst of a career transition or a life transition, or simply wanting to make a change? Yesterday we talked about the transition map, the foundation of any transition, and now we're going to go into a little detail around some of the exercises to do in the midst of this planning process. Enjoy.
Now, last week we did the podcast on multiple characters, right? Mm-hmm. One of the multiple characters exercise sits right in the who you are today.
Right.
So who's on your team that you are going to be moving forward with? And who are those characters that you want to show up more in the future? And who are those that you actually would like to show up slightly less in the future? So that's an example of how you link some of these more focused episodes into this overall map. I'll throw 2 or 3 other just comments in that I tend to look for when I'm working with people. And one is that future might be rich and compelling, but you can't get there in one go. So if you talk about that as the next volume of your series of books, there may be a next chapter you're going to try and have to write.
Right.
And so it's slightly more focused. It's an interim step. It's a milestone on the way, whatever you might want to call it. But sometimes we have to hold that future as the North Star and then look for something more concrete in the shorter term. The second thing is sometimes, especially if somebody is what I'll call barrier driven, that they immediately think of what is going to get in the way. And we can't change people's brains for not thinking that. So actually having a construct by which you can actually turn around and say, yes, these are the barriers, and what are we going to do to get over them? And then the last thing I'll say, and I think we've talked about this in the past, is if something drastic has happened in the recent past, that's actually going to have a greater shadow and influence your thinking about what you might want to do next. You've probably heard the phrase is when you're in an emotional state, don't plan to do anything particular. If you just got fired from your job, if you just lost a significant other, then just recognize that's going to have your thinking, that part of it's going to be magnified in your current thinking.
Then you need to take the time to grieve. We've talked about this before, but you need to take the time to grieve the loss of whatever it might be, because being able to move forward, right, and being able to plan your future or look at the pathway to get there or how I want to show up, a lot of that is you're going to be unable to do some of that in a real effective way unless you take the time to grieve and take the time to say goodbye to whatever it might be. Then you're going to be ready to actually have the next part of the dialogue.
So that's the overall map. As I said, I've typically in the past printed these things out on 6-foot by 4-foot vinyl sheets, and we actually fill in words and this, that, the other. Nowadays, we're doing this more online, and so we will use a number of tools. I mentioned the multiple characters tools. We've got in my tool bag, there's probably 200 more of those.
So Phil, one of the things we've been talking about so far in our episode is really around this thing we'll call the transition map. And for anyone who's interested, we'll certainly share a copy of kind of what a visual looks like for you. But let's do the first activity that someone or exercise or tool that you would use with someone who is maybe feeling uncertain or feeling stuck or in the wilderness. And let's do it with me. I'll actually be the live participant, and then we'll take a moment to describe how one would do it themselves in their own life. Because as our BrainWise friends know, I'm in the midst of a transition. I just am leaving a 7-year career with a particular company and that I'm choosing to leave on my terms. And I'm in the midst of what we call an independent contractor phase and haven't yet determined what those next steps are for my career. What am I doing next? Where am I going? So I don't describe it as being stuck, but I describe it as uncertain. So why don't we get us started off?
That's great. And I'm just going to give a couple of caveats. Number one is this doesn't happen in a 5-minute conversation. What happens is we trigger off a thinking process in a 5-minute conversation, and then your brain will start, especially your non-conscious brain, working on it over time, and you'll be coming up with ideas. My first recommendation is either do what I have by my side at all times a journal. I've had one with me for 25 years. Not the same journal. I filled it out.
Say it's
Not much.
Knowing you have many of them.
I do have many of them. But my recommendation is to get a journal, and so you can take it with you, because our brains don't think of everything in the perfect way possible. So you're going to come up with ideas at various points in time. So get yourself a journal, take it with you, with a pen as well, and just record it. It's actually better to do that than it is to record it on a computer, because we don't know exactly why, but our brains treat things we write down and we remember them better than when we put them in a computer. So that's my first caveat. The second thing is, it never goes the same discussion with everybody, because people are different. Something will come up and they go, oh, what about something that happened in the past? And my job as a coach is to go with whatever's going on with that person's brain at the time. So I'm going to take us through the sort of ideal way of going through a map. It very rarely happens that way. So,
totally. And really, we're doing this, Phil, so that one, people will see a live demo, so they see it played out in real life with me. But then two, as you're going through this experience for our BrainWise friends, if you're going through something and you want to use these tools, use them based off what resonates most with you. So if you hear us going through a particular exercise, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense, and then it triggers off something else. One, you can always email us and ask us questions, but this is your opportunity, I think, or our opportunity to help, ourselves be able to go, this is where I might want to go, or this is what makes sense to me. And so these are all tools that our BrainWise friends can start to use in their own particular experience.
Exactly. So my first question to you would be, do you know your purpose in life? And if you know it, that's great. Some people know what their purpose in life was when they were 4 or 5 years old. If we were able to go and talk to Mozart, it would be fascinating. When did he first know that was what his life was going to look like? Some of us aren't as well blessed with knowing what their purpose is in life. And so one of the conversations we'd have, if you didn't know, would be, what might it be? What are the aspects? What are the attributes? If you can't write it down, can you write some of the things that you know it would be part of it?
We'll do a little bit of that. So ask me a couple of those questions and I'll describe it as I know it today.
So describe it. Give me 5 bullet points or words on how you would sum it up today.
People or human focused.
Great.
Positive. Impact. Compassionate. And the word it comes to mind is helpful, but it's like, how can I help? I want to be able to help people.
Right. So summing it up, as I hear it, is your purpose is helping people.
My kind of description has been, and I've known this for my whole life, but certainly have more encapsulated it lately, is I want to have the most positive impact on those I have the blessing of being in contact with, whether it's directly or indirectly, that I'm able to do.
Great. And you've obviously summed that up. How long do you think it took you to come up with that summary?
To be able to put it into words, it's probably been a couple of years of experiencing it, or I had to think back on my last couple of years to sum it up. But I think innately, I always knew I wanted to have a positive impact on people. I didn't realize, though, it could be direct or indirect.
Yeah. And so, again, for our BrainWise friends here, this is not something that happens in a matter of minutes or hours. It can take a long while. And that's not a worry. You're normal if it takes you a while. It's the unusual people that already have that sewn up at a very early age. Let's assume that you're not one of those lucky people that what I say is, hey, if you already got your purpose, go forward and write it large. So, for the rest of us, we have to work on it and find out. And the other thing is, it's not one and done. It's not, yes, this is my purpose. So for some people, let's take if we can, a typical married couple. They have 2.2 kids. Always want to see what's 0.2 of a kid look like.
Right.
Right. But so let's just go with 2. And their purpose might be to produce 2 wonderful adults that are great additions to the human race. That's their purpose. once the kids have flown the nest, 21, 22, whatever it might be, maybe there's a new purpose. It may be to give back to their community. Who knows? So these are just things to start thinking about where you are in your phase of life. I'm 75, and I know my purpose now is to help as many people as I possibly can understand their brains in order to get themselves and other people a better life. That's my purpose, and I know that's probably going to be the remainder until I'm no longer around. And I'm good with
Which we hope is a long, long, long time.
We'll see. But something over which I don't have a lot of control.
Correct.
But if you're interested in exploring your purpose, then I've thrown a few things out there. And again, if anybody wants, we've got most of this written up. So if anybody says, hey, can you give me the document on blah, 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 contact us and we will do our very best. Can't promise, but we will do our very best to send you something that will help out. Just again, I know that you know about this, but there's a thing called the Ikigai. And it's Ikigai. Ikigai. I think that's how we spell it. And it consists of 4 components. And it's actually like for those of you who know what a Venn diagram looks like, we tend to write it as a Venn diagram. And it asks 4 things. Number 1, what do you love doing? Number 2, what are you good at? Number 3 is, what does society or your community or your company want? And number 4 is, what will they pay for? All right, so that's the overlap of the 4, because you do need to earn a living. You do need to have a market for your services, but you also want to make certain that you're doing something you love and something you become good at. And in each of those areas, there's overlap, right? So if you love something, but you're not good at it, that's a learning opportunity. That's a growth opportunity. And so where all 4 of those overlap, something you love, something you're good at, something that the community needs, and something they'll pay for, that's your sweet spot. That's your Ikigai. So let's go back. Yeah. What do you think are your top, if we were writing this out, we would probably identify 10 things you're good at. But off the top of your head, what do you think are 5 things that you're really good at?
I'm an excellent communicator.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Strategist. Compassionate. Synthesizer. Creative. Helpful. I don't know if that's something I'm good at, but I don't know if it is a strength, but it is. It's something I really want to help people. So yeah, those are the ones I would say off the top of my head.
Yeah. And for our BrainWise listeners who might decide to take this exercise and flesh it out, we actually do have a list of skills and things you're good at. But if you don't know, ask some close friends, spouse, family. They'll actually have as good a picture of what it is you are. And then there are formal assessments that you can go, which will help you in that thinking process. So that's the first thing. What are you good at? All right. What's the next thing? What do you love doing?
I love helping people. There's no doubt. That's probably number 1. Number 2, I love being a spouse, a family, a friend, all of that. I love helping. I love strategy, helping people plan things out, helping companies plan things out. I love thinking of this is where you want to go, helping, all of that. And then really helping people realize, how do you get from here to there? I love to bake. So we're talking about hobbies. Yeah, my hobbies. My hobby is I enjoy baking. I'm not really sure there's a market for it because there's a lot of bakers in the world, but let's see. I enjoy being creative and being able to think of abstract concepts and how do they all connect and make sense for people. So those are probably the things I enjoy.
Yeah. All right. So now, of those things, what do you think the community needs? And when I say community, it could be your local geographic community. It could be a political community. It could be a church community. It could be if you're in business, it could be your business. It could be your family. It doesn't matter what you define as community. What is it that you are going to offer into the business world? We call it your marketplace.
So I probably have two categories of communities. One is my personal, like local church community. And then the other would be the business, organizational company community. So I'll start with the personal church community. They need someone who can help with strategy and think about how are we going to get what we want done accomplished? How are we going to best help the kingdom? So that's all that strategy part of my brain coming out, synthesizer, putting people in the right places, and then my desire to help people. So being one of those that actually goes out into the community and helps to help other people and spread the word. So that would be that community. And I think then on the organizational side, it's similar, some context where they need the strategist, they need my ability to synthesize things and bring. Another strength I would say is recognizing strengths, the connectedness, where I can see how everyone plays a certain part and I can bring those people together to play their part. So I'd say those three things are probably the most marketable skills that I have, which is a strategist, a synthesizer, and a connector. That concludes segment 2 of the series we're calling Do You Feel Stuck? Or are you in the midst of a career or life transition or simply looking to make a change? Today we went through the Ikigai exercise where you answer several questions with information about yourself to help define your sweet spot or your Ikigai. Stay tuned until tomorrow when segment 3 launches and we take a deeper dive into some of the activities along this amazing journey. Until then, stay curious, stay compassionate, and always stay brainwise.